Weren't they amazing? Now we're going to have our speaker. Will Ford is a former third-year major director at Christ for the Nations Institute in Dallas, Texas. He is a co-founder of the 818, the sign with his wife,
De Havilland.
De Havilland. Many know him internationally for his family heirloom passed down through history and his connection to slavery and prayer for freedom. Will travels internationally, speaking on prayer and its impact on reconciliation, spiritual awakening, and societal transformation. He is the co-author with Matt Lockett of The Dream King, How the Dream of Martin Luther King Jr. is being fulfilled to heal racism in America. Will is also a Tarrant County Historical Commissioner and an OU Wyatt 1984 graduate and Morehouse College alum. He is the father of 4, and he and his wife, De Havilland, live in Fort Worth, Texas.
Thank you so much. Give it up for Dr. Jackson. Wow, I can't believe I'm back here 40 years later. I graduated in 1984. Sat in the same seats as y'all sit there, like literally the same seats. I don't think much has changed in the auditorium yet. But I'm excited to be here, Black History Month. You know, we sang, lift up every voice and sing, and you hear them talk about faith a lot. And you can't talk about the story of African Americans in this nation, especially coming over here and being enslaved. You can't talk about that story, about the story of faith, because guess what, y'all? We came this far by faith. I want to share a powerful story with you connected to faith and believing, and also connected to dreams. How many of y'all dream, right? Like in the middle of the night, you like have a dream that comes to you. How many of you have aspirational dreams, like you want to believe that you're going somewhere? Let me see your hands. That should be everybody in here, right? So hopefully I can say something that give you some hope related to this. And a lot of it, for me, it starts right here with this cast iron pot. This pot has been in my family for at least 8 generations, passed down. It's believed to be about 250 years old. 250 years old, passed down. So we don't have our technology working right with us today, but I believe it's connected to that speech that Dr. King had, where he said, I have a dream, let's talk about dreams. I have a dream that one day the sons of former slaves and the sons of former slave owners would sit together at the table of brotherhood. Did y'all know that that phrase, I have a dream, was actually birthed out of a prayer meeting? Yeah, Dr. King was at a church where the Ku Klux Klan burned the church down. And so Dr. King was there with a young lady named Prathia Hall. How'd you like to have the name Prathia? Her daddy named after prayer. Prathia Hall is praying in the middle of this rubble that hatred created, and she starts saying, I have a dream. She starts naming off her own list. Dr. King listened to her. He said, young lady, you mind if I borrow that phrase? She said, yes, sir, by all means. He used that phrase, I have a dream, as part of his prayer life for over a year. Then, of course, he got to the March on Washington. He's there. He finished reading his speech verbatim, and then his friend Mahalia Jackson says, Martin, tell him about the dream. Listen, you need friends to remind you of the dream. So he kicks in the I have a dream, and the rest is history. All because he overheard somebody else praying. But not only that, he took the prayers of that young lady and cast it as a vision for us all. So that's what y'all need to do too. We need to do it because we come this far by faith. Now, what does that mean so much to me? I'm one of those sons of former slaves, and this kettle pot was passed down by the slaves in my family. Like I said, now I need y'all to quiet down a little bit. Thank you very much. I appreciate you. This is so important. I want y'all to get this. I waited 40 years to share this information with you. They're actually making a movie about this story, and y'all are the first ones to get to hear it in a high school. All right? So check this out. This pot was used by the slaves in my family. They used it for cooking, they used it for washing clothes, but secretly, they were Christians, and they used it for prayer. Now, back then, they would twist the meaning of Christianity to try to benefit slavery, and they would say, slaves be obedient to your masters if you want to go to heaven. But we know that's not true. They knew there was something more to their faith, And they would literally be beaten on this plantation if they were caught praying. We actually had a family member in our family who was beat to death for going fishing without asking. That's how cruel slavery was on that plantation. But listen, in spite of the danger and because of their love for God, they prayed anyway. So what would they do? They would go into a barn late at night to make sure their prayer wasn't seen. But to make sure it wasn't heard, they used this cast iron pot. So they would take the pot in the middle of the barn and they would take it and turn it upside down on the cabin floor. They then propped it up so it would be suspended off the ground about an inch or two. They would then lay flat on the ground and put their lips in between the opening, between the ground and the kettle, so that this kettle pot muffled their voices as they prayed through the night. And the story they passed down with the pot is this, is that they didn't think they would see freedom in their time, so they prayed for the freedom of their children and the next generation. So one day, freedom comes and this young teenage girl decides to keep this pot and that story in our family. You know why? She overheard somebody else praying for her. She overheard somebody else believing in her. And she decides to keep this pot and that story in our family. She passed the pot down to Harriet Lockett, who passed it on to Noah Lockett, who passed it on to William Ford Sr., who passed it on to William Ford Jr., who then gave it to me, William Ford III. So I'm going to take this pot around the country to remind people, listen, there's a prayer bowl over your family that collects your prayers. Every time you pray, it's collected in a bowl in heaven. And at the right time, answers are released when you begin to pray. It may not happen in your generation. Some things will happen instantaneously in a moment, but then there's some things that happen in prayer that continues on. Listen, all these people who've gone before us, they were approved for their faith, but they didn't receive what was promised, so that apart from us, they wouldn't be made perfect without us. In other words, there's a whole company of people looking over the balcony in heaven saying, don't mess this thing up. God started something else that he wants to complete in you. So, but then I realized there wasn't just black Christian slaves praying. There were also white abolitionists and revivalists who were praying too. Who knew that any person who was enslaved was in humanity, that was their brother. And they fought for their freedom too. They put their privilege at risk to see other people flourish. And so the prayers of those people that transform hearts and transform this nation. But then one night I was given a dream to basically arrest my attention to say, it's time for me to take up the baton from the past and move the change forward for the future. It happened through this dream that I had about Dr. King. In the dream, I was on my way to Dr. King's old church, but I couldn't get there without first picking up Dr. King. So in the dream, of course, he's alive, and he comes out of his house and he has this humongous white duffel bag with black handles on it. And in the dream, he starts emptying everything out of that duffel bag and throws the bag down violently, and he comes and gets to his vehicle with us. And in the dream, I thought to myself, man, that bag will make a nice souvenir. It shows you how petty I am, right? Like I'm thinking, I went to Morehouse, he went to Morehouse, the bag will make a nice souvenir. That's literally what I thought. But in the dream, I go to try to pick up the bag, and before I could touch it, Dr. King grabs me on my shoulders, and he says, no, do not go back and pick that up. And he starts telling me what I need to do to heal the racial divide in our nation. I wake up in a dream in tears. You know why? Because I realized the interpretation for it. I realized the black handles represented my ethnicity as an African-American man. I realized the white baggage represented my unforgiveness issues that I had with racism growing up. I knew that what was being said to me was just, get rid of your white baggage. You've been carrying it for way too long. I knew what that was about because when I was 13, 14 years old, me and a couple of friends were coming out of a convenience store and a carload full of guys pulled up to us, started shouting N-word at us, said they were going to shoot and kill us. They probably were just joyriding. We didn't know them, but listen, they chased us for almost 2 hours. I know what it's like to get my first nice house in the suburbs in my 30s and have the same police officer every week for the first 3 months pull me over just for driving while black. I know what that feels like. But you know what I've done? For every white person and every police officer, I put those stories on everybody. I saw everybody through the veil of those experiences. The Greeks have a word for that we use as the accuser. It comes from this word kategoros. That's where we get the word category. In other words, there's a diabolical plot to get us to categorize and stereotype each other. So before we have one conversation with each other, we put some bad narrative, we put some bad storyline, we put some bad stigma on each other. What was being said to me was this: get rid of your unforgiveness, Get rid of your resentment. Get rid of your baggage so you can get into new people that can bring revival and justice for everybody. And the question I think is being put out there right now is this: what color is your baggage? Is it red, yellow, black, white, brown? Or is it a donkey or an elephant? Talking about the political parties. Listen, y'all, with all the extreme stuff we saw from 4 into 10 cities being set on fire by the extreme left, all the stuff we saw on January 6th, listen, y'all, left wing, right wing, the whole bird is sick. We need the dove of peace back right now. And we need y'all to be contended for it. So, why is this important? Well, for me, I wound up going to a prayer meeting. It was Martin Luther King Celebration Day. And there was a person who had a dream that he was supposed to come to this event. He had a dream about the man who was over the event. He'd never seen him before, never met him before. He looked him up online and saw that this was a real person. It's a white man named Matt Lockett. He came to the gathering, heard me share my story. And we compared notes, and he saw that, yeah, this pot came from the Lockett side of my family. We compared notes, and we blew it off as a coincidence. But we became friends. We've been friends for over 19 years now. Well, fast forward. That white friend of mine, Matt Lockett, he found out that the Civil War ended in his family's front yard. And so we thought, man, what a cool coincidence. I have this pot where slaves pray for freedom. You have this house where General Lee fought his last battle. What a cool coincidence. But listen to this. We stumbled on more research and learned that it was his family who owned my family where this kettle pot came from. And we met at the Lincoln Memorial, both led by dreams, to the place where Dr. King said, I have a dream that one day the sons of former slaves, sons of former slave owners would sit together at the table of brotherhood. Isn't that powerful? Right? So here's the other thing with it. He also found out that he had a revivalist and an abolitionist in his family who fought against slavery. So it's like all of our families, we have these things called generational curses, generational blessings that represent these dominating themes of storylines. And I think the question for all of us right now is this: what storyline do you want to be a part of? The healing of the hurt, the blessing of the curse. What storyline do you want to be a part of? I'll leave y'all with this. You know, like I told you, folks from Hollywood heard our story, and after a couple of years of waiting, we're going to start filming a documentary about this story. It's going to come out next year. But the most powerful thing about it is that they're not doing a documentary about my faith per se or my friend's faith per se, but the prayer life and the faith of the people in our families 200 years ago. So the question is, not just for me, but for all of us, what will be documented about your faith 20 years from now, 200 years from now? Because the deal is this: the commitment of our forefathers has now become the calling of our time. And there's a prayer bowl over your family. All right? I bless you guys. I'm so proud of you. I'm so honored to be back here today. Look at all your bright faces. Thank you for your time. God bless you.